Alright. I'll wait for things to go live here. I need to switch this. Just double check and make sure we got good audio here. And just double check. Yep. Okay. A little bit of a delay there. I think I've got everything all prepared. We're going to cross our fingers. Well, I guess prepared as I normally am. I guess I could have prepared a doc and talking points and bullet points and all this sort of thing, but we're going to go seat of the pants as we always do here. So I've got some unboxings to do tonight, and actually before I get too far into this too, I want to check and see. Can you see? Yeah, see, I don't know how you're supposed to tell. That may be why. I don't feel like that's going to be... Interesting. Maybe that's why we never have anybody in chat. Trying to see if I can find... Okay, well, I am not sure how to get a working link for this. Okay. So let's try that. I wonder if this is only for... There we go. Okay. Go to the top and notice the context menu appear. Hey, there we go. Okay. Might be getting somewhere now. Actually, let's cancel that for a second. Delete this. We'll add this. There we go. That should give us a link to the stream. Okay. Wow, so it was mildly convoluted. Let me see if I can. You know what I think we might do? Okay, let's switch over to this. So basically just use this right here. WP Guru, I guess. Where's the actual... Okay, so we go back to our studio, go to our videos tab, or on the left sidebar, not the tab. You gotta switch it over to the live tab, and then you should have your live stream at the top. If you roll your bar over top of the video, you'll have, let me see if I can, well, yeah, right here. You roll over top of the video, you'll have the three dots come up. You click on that, and it'll give you an option down here for Get Shareable Link. That is how you bring your link up for your YouTube video, or your YouTube live stream, I guess I should say. So, yeah. That is a thing. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, let's move on to some of the unboxings we have here. Let's switch back off of this really quickly. There we go. Alright. And I'm kind of thinking what I want to do here. I've got 3 things to unbox. And then we'll do maybe some like research type stuff here also. Whether or not we'll get to that actually is going to depend on how long it takes to get through everything else and how tired I am at that point. So, yeah. So right now, I'm kind of wanting to do the tech thing that is a little less automotive based on the automotive channel. So that I can brain better while I'm talking about this thing, because I might start to trail off here later. So I guess we will start with that. So, my phone has been acting up. I currently have a OnePlus 5T that is a little bit, just about 4 years old now. Roundabouts, I believe. Let me verify real quick because I was already looking at this earlier. And I may be looking in the wrong place for that. Okay, anyway. I believe it's right around 4 years old at this point. And it's kind of falling out of support from both the manufacturer. You know, your Android phones don't really seem to get supported for quite as long. I think it's starting to fall out of support. I'm starting to have issues with, I guess what other people have said is that the RAM in these things can load up. And once you kind of overload them, they'll start doing quirky behavior and locking the phone up. I actually had one lockup so bad that it completely had to restart the phone. And when it restarted, it was telling me that my phone was encrypted and I needed to input the password for it in order to be able to get to it. And if I didn't have the password, that it was going to basically wipe everything off the phone. I got around this by hard restarting the phone and turning it back on, and I got lucky and I got around that screen. It didn't do it the second time. So, yeah, I was really sweating for a minute. I thought I was going to lose everything off of there because I didn't have my contacts or anything backed up. And as we all know, nobody knows phone numbers anymore. You just go into your contacts and dial somebody that way. But, yeah, so what we have still is a OnePlus 5T. I got the factory glass screen protector for it, and immediately almost chipped that thing with a key. Learned not to carry keys in the same pocket. So it's not the screen that's broken, it's the protector, and I'll probably end up peeling the glass part of this off and just leaving. There's a thicker plastic part to the back of it that I'll probably just leave on there to kind of help protect the actual screen from scratches and that kind of thing still, but I need to take the glass off of here. Um, but I am planning on keeping a hold of this phone, and actually, it's the factory, like the case that goes around the outside of it, and it's kind of started to fall apart and lost little chunks out of it. Um, but it's kind of nice because it's textured, so it has a little bit more grip to it that way. Um, so it's been a great phone and everything, but as fast as the mobile space has kind of been moving, and with the fact that it's kind of starting to fall out of support a little bit, it's starting to have some quirky behavior and everything about it, I am going to switch phones. At least as my main phone. This thing I'm still planning on hanging on to because it turns out even when these things don't make phone calls and stuff, they still make decent cameras and everything. So that's probably mainly what this thing is going to become as a camera. So what I ended up getting was an LG phone. Got an LG V60 Think 5G. I guess it's not really like super recent now. It's been a couple months that LG's phone division went out of business. So you can find some decent deals out there right now on LG phones. I was between this one and the Wing. The Wing's a really cool looking phone. I guess we can take a look at that really quickly too. So let me get that brought up. And we'll talk about this thing. So, that should be mildly concerning in a way that LG is no longer producing phones and you're looking at maybe buying an LG phone. The upside to this is LG has said that they are going to support their phones for about 3 years. So the more I got to thinking about it, I was like, well, I might as well go ahead and pull the trigger now. Because, you know, the more I wait, the less useful time that I'm going to have with that phone that LG's actually supporting the thing. So, they've committed to 3 years, which is about standard on Android phones. Your average person trades out phones every 3 years or so. My last phone I had for about 5 years. This one I've had for almost 4 now, so I tend to be on the longer time that I hold on to these things before I trade them out. They have, let me see if I can get back down to this really quickly because I want to see this. Where was I going with that? I can't even remember. Lost my train of thought, but kind of thought I was getting back on it here. But yeah, no, I do tend to be a little longer as far as how frequently I change out phones. To me, it's a very expensive device to be changing out that frequently. I mean, you have people that will upgrade phones every year because a new iPhone comes out, and not just singling out the iPhone people, but, you know, kind of, there are people that have to have the latest and greatest of everything. I'm not one of those. I try to be a little more frugal with how I spend things, I guess, and this is why I'm looking at LG phones as a, hey, they don't exist anymore. Maybe I should buy the cheap option because people are kind of being a little bit cautious about buying their stuff. So I can't remember 100%. I want to say this phone was originally somewhere around $800. I watched it drop to around $600, and I was like, well, that seems like a pretty good deal. And my friend started having issues, so I went and looked again, and the phone's down to about $400 to buy the thing right now. And I went, wow, that's a really good deal. I guess I'm going to go ahead and buy that. The thing about the V60 is that you have an option for a second screen, so you can actually have like a foldable phone that has 2 separate screens. It's not like one solid screen all the way across. But that second screen is an option, and I ended up figuring this out after the fact. The second screen I know I've seen on eBay for around $250, $300. For a phone I just paid $400 for. It kind of makes it a little bit harder to jump in and get that second screen. The productivity of it would be awesome. I would love to have that, but I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, for that amount of money, I would rather take that money and put it into something else. I'm sure I can find a better place to spend that money. But for the time being, I do have a newer phone that's supposed to be supported for a few years here and should hopefully operate halfway decent. a lot of the things for this phone actually are kind of an option, as is with most phones. Um, we'll unbox this thing here in a minute and take a look at it. So what I was talking about here, switch over really quickly. What I was originally looking at was the LG Wing. So here in just a second, yeah, see there's a second screen on this thing and it kind of flips up into a T. I found this thing pretty interesting. It was really kind of like a content production kind of deal. As you can see here, there's some extra screen down here at the bottom that you can kind of use, and they kind of tell you that's supposed to be like a handle. Obviously when you take pictures or when you're recording video or whatever, you usually want the phone sideways to, get that aspect. But there are situations where some apps will actually do video or pictures straight up and down, so you have that also to deal with. But this was the other one I was thinking about. These are still, I can't remember if it was 600 or 800 bucks when I was looking. Just for comparison, again, these are current prices. Things are going to fluctuate. But for the hike in price, again, I went with the cheaper option because I thought the V60 was going to work quite well for what I needed. I've still got a large upgrade in camera quality, as we'll talk about here in a minute anyway. But just so you have an idea of what that phone was, that's what I was originally looking at. So, and then the other thing with this too is that you're still covering up, not quite half of the screen that's in behind it. But if you're really looking for a productivity phone, I'd still think the V60 is a better deal because you're going to have two full screens. You don't have where the phone where the screen kind of swivels up and covers up part of your back screen here. So from a productivity standpoint, I think the V60 was the better deal. It's going to be cheaper anyway, even if you do go with the second screen. So that's where I was at with that. So let's switch back over here. I want to do the unboxing and get that done, and then we'll talk about the specs and kind of compare it to the 5T that I've currently got and kind of talk about where we're seeing upgrades at there. So, all right, so we're back to the main webcam screen here. All right, so as far as our actual unboxing here, we have the box. We'll talk about the specs and everything here in just a minute. I just want to get this thing unboxed and we'll kind of talk about everything that's in here. It actually has a list here on the back. Package contents is going to be the actual phone itself. It's got a travel charger that it comes along with it. And actually, that's kind of something that I was thinking was going to be separate. But apparently that is included in here. One thing I'm not 100% certain on is whether this this travel charger is capable of the full rate of charge that the phone is capable of. That was kind of the thing that I was wondering about. To me, travel charger could very possibly mean, hey, this is something you're going to use while you're traveling and not like as your main charger. A lot of times the better chargers are going to cost more and they may not throw it in the package to kind of save cost, whether it be their cost or our cost. I would honestly be happy to pay an extra, $20 or whatever to get the better charger along with the phone. Some phones are shipping without chargers now, and they are a completely optional accessory. So bear that in mind. And some companies are doing that. They're selling it as a waste reduction kind of thing. So if you already have a charger, that you're not gonna waste having to get another one of those. And they, it's kind of pitched like you're not going to use them both. Like I wouldn't hate having one for to be plugged in the wall at home and then have one in my backpack as well at all times. But it is what it is. We got what we got. One of the interesting things with chargers too is that they'll charge at not only different voltages but different amperages. So you need to have the one that is compatible with the charging technology that your phone has. I'm not sure exactly on what this one has. We might run across that in a minute here. If not, I've got to do a little bit more research to actually have an answer to that question. But anyway, before I get too far along here, there is a travel charger, and then it also says there is a USB data cable in here as well. So some USB cables are capable only of charging. This one apparently carries data as well. There may be other cables that are a little bit better than what's going to be included in here. We'll find out in a minute, but it will carry data, if you were wondering about that. There's a pre-installed SIM card in the phone, and there's a quick start guide in here as well. So, and this is the AT&T version as well. 5G capable, as we have plastered all over the outside of the box. So if you are in an area that has 5G as an option, that is a thing as well. So also, this is capable of receiving wireless emergency alerts. It's AT&T 4-star Eco Rating 2.0, whatever. If that floats your boat, great. And then it does mention on the outside of the box here that we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon processor inside of the phone. So let's go ahead and get this thing out of the phone. I kind of cheated a little bit. I've kind of already been into this because I had a new shiny phone and I had to look at it at least, but everything is still in here as it was when I received the phone. I've only pulled the tape back and kind of looked at the phone inside of the box. But, so we'll go ahead and peel the little seal back and open the box up. This is also a 128 gigabyte of storage, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it is in the blue. Classy Blue is the name that LG gave this. But I have that model is what we're going to be looking at here. All right, so first thing we have in the box, we have a wipe for the screen. Let's see, what do we got here? Let's not drive distracted. Great. So we have the phone in here. Actually, let me set this on my lap. We have the phone in here. So trying to not get all the reflections from the lights. There we go. Which is something else I need to upgrade soon. Lighting. Need better lighting. But it's all covered up and everything, so probably shouldn't flash the back side of this thing too much. But here we go. We'll go ahead and take the cover off the outside of this and try not to drop it in the process. So dispose of this, and all right, I don't know if I can kind of get my phone over, or my hand over that. There's the back side of the phone. I've already kind of started to fingerprint it all up, but let's see here. Try not to drop everything. All right, so there's the back side of the phone, all your cameras and everything that go along with it. If we can focus there. And you have an LG logo on the back, P60. There is apparently a fingerprint sensor on here somewhere, and it's not like the old 5T, so it might be built into the front of the screen. I'm not sure. I probably am going to go ahead and plug this thing in to go ahead and give it its best charge to start with here. There are other little plastic bits around here to kind of peel off. So we'll get some of those. Might get to it here later. I don't know. But, alright, so let's take a look at the actual phone, kind of up close here. Your SIM thing is up here. The little tray that it's going to go along with it is up here on the top. What else have we got? Okay, so got a regular power button off to one side here. Volume buttons are actually two separate buttons off to the side of the phone here as well, so that's interesting. If we could focus a little bit better there. Anyway, and then I'm trying to think. The button down below may be like your mute button and that kind of thing. I'm not sure. There are some extra buttons on here from what I'm used to on the other phone. I think that's about all there is to cover on the sides. And as far as the bottom, we've got our regular USB-C connector down there, speaker, and this also has a 3.5mm jack in it still for headphones, if you want it for headphones. I use it for microphones, so it was pretty important to me to make sure I had a phone that still had a 3.5mm jack. I usually go scraping and scouring for these things. The 5T had it as well, Some of the newer OnePlus phones have actually done away with that. That was more an option, I guess, from their parent manufacturer, which was Oppo, is the company that actually owns OnePlus. Oppo's big in China. We don't really have them here in the U.S. quite as much, but Oppo did away with the 3.5mm jack on most of their phones, and since OnePlus was kind of a smaller operation at the time, they had done away with 3.5mm jacks in those phones as well. I am not entirely 100% up to date on the brand new phones. It may have come back with the 9 or the 9T. I'm not sure. You'll have to do a little bit of research into that on your own. If you have troubles, I can probably help you look that up. But that should be easy enough to find. So, other stuff. Looks like a warranty card in the box as well. A couple of little directions and everything. Yes, that should be a warranty card. We got the accessories pack in here. So, go ahead. That's right, that was actually on the outside of the box, so I shouldn't really have anything incriminating on the outside of here. So, alright, as far as what we have in the small box that's inside of the phone here, or inside of the box for the phone. Alright. Okay. Again, I'm an AT&T user, so there's an AT&T Quick Start Guide in here. Safety and warranty information. Oh, and this is our tool for our SIM card. So that's included as well if you need one of those. You get one of those about with every phone, so you'll probably have a ton of them soon if you don't already. Here we have our travel charger. And this is actually saying 5 volts at 3 amps or 9 volts at 2.77 amps. So I would say this probably... Okay, certified USB fast charger, 25 watts. So I would say this probably is actually going to charge at the full rate of charge that's supposed to go along with this thing. So, and as bulky as this thing is, so one of the other things you want to keep in mind too, when you go to the gas station and buy your adapter bricks there for USB charging, don't do that, because those don't have like IC, not IC control, but they don't have controllers in them like your regular factory chargers will. Sometimes you can get away with like a trying to think. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but if you buy the better brand chargers, they should be bulkier, and usually they'll do a little better for you in the long run. That's bugging the crap out of me that I can't think the name of. So I've got a power bank from them too, and there are knockoff companies of them, so you want to make sure that you're getting the actual name brand, not something that sounds similar. Why can't I think of that right now? That's going to bug me a lot. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and carry on here so that we don't take forever doing all this. But 25 watts of charging is actually a pretty fast charge. This will better take care of the phone and make sure you don't burn out the IC circuits and that sort of thing on the inside. That's one of the issues with using, the gas station chargers, is they don't regulate power quite as well on the inside of them, and you can actually end up burning up internal stuff to the phone that you can take to somebody that can repair phones and get it repaired, but these things are expensive, and we try not to do any more repairs on them than what we have to. It's like your car. Do a little bit of routine maintenance on it, try and keep, dust out all the ports and everything, and don't break stuff because it costs money. It's really bugging me that I can't think of the name of the power brick, and it's right around the corner. It's bugging me enough that I'm going to go look, and I'll be right back. Promise. All right. Anchor is what I couldn't think of. There are other like name brand companies out there, but I've done all right with them in the past. So I'm trying to think. I think there's one that begins with a B as well. Like I was like, I know it starts with an A. I can't remember the exact name of it, but that is one place to go to get like your wall adapters, and like I've got a battery bank from them out there. They are generally pretty good, but I can't think of the other name right now either. But anyway, okay, so what else have we got to look at here? We took a look at the charger, or the wall adapter, I guess I should call it. And then the other thing that's in the box here, last thing, is USB cable. This is USB-C on both sides. That is for your wall adapting. Some of the older cables and stuff that I've got are USB-A on one side and USB-C on the other. I think this is the only one that I've got that's dual-ended USB-C. So I'm glad they included this. Some companies aren't including these as well now, or aren't including these also. So, yeah, that's appreciated to be given that as well. Alright, so that's everything that's inside of the box for this thing. So let's actually take a look at some of the technical specs for this thing, and then we'll do a quick comparison, and then we'll move on to some of the tools and stuff that we've got here as well. Okay, so here's our LG V60 Think and LG Dual Screen. Okay, so they actually clarify here, sold separately from select carriers. AT&T, I believe, does have this as an option as well. If you go to AT&T to try and buy it from them directly, they have been out of stock forever on it. So you're pretty well going to be stuck going to eBay or something like that to be able to find one of these things. Like I said, I didn't really want to justify it right now. I might do it later on down the road, but there's also a distinct possibility. I think stark actually would have been a suitable word in that situation as well. But there's a distinct possibility that those second screens, may be very difficult to get a hold of by the time I'm actually ready to buy the thing. And if that's the case, then whatever. I'm not going to like lose my mind over not having a second screen on this thing. It's still a good phone. It would be ideal, not absolutely 100% required. So I'm already getting dog hair inside of it. But okay, so alright. So your LG dual screen is a detachable 2-screen design. You can kind of see it here how it works. Basically what the second screen is it has the second screen, and then you've got basically a cover that goes around your base phone. So you put that cover around your base phone, and that is kind of what gives you the hinge to be able to have the second phone. I don't know if they have... Do they have a separate picture here of it? Not really, I don't believe. Okay, and actually it looks like the second screen on this thing is actually much slimmer than what the actual phone itself is too. Like, it's a decently bulky phone. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute too. Let's see. But yeah, you can kind of see here where they've got a different cover that covers the back side of the phone if you're going to use the second screen. But they don't have a picture of the second screen by itself. Trust me. Well, let's see. Can we click? Is this just a scroll down kind of thing? It is not. Okay. Kind of wondering if they're going to show it separate here. They don't. Okay. Alright, well, my attempt to find you a different picture of the dual screen by itself has been fruitless, but we will continue nonetheless. So essentially what you'll end up having is a dual 6.8-inch OLED display. FHD, I guess, is something high definition. I'm not full high definition, I guess. Again, the multitasking is the major attractive thing for that. Work and play like never before. If you've never had something with 2 screens before, I guess. Alright, so the phone is capable of 8K video recording. I don't think I'm going to be using a whole lot of 8K. I don't expect the sensor in the phone to be as good either as what like an actual DSLR camera would be. So despite the fact that it'll shoot in 8K, I mean, phone cameras have become pretty impressive. So I don't know. I may be saying bad things here. So, but I would probably go with the DSLR over the phone. But given the price, kind of hard to replace a DSLR for $400. So they do make good cameras and everything. They're great cameras for the price. It has a triple camera system. The 64 megapixel camera is your standard camera. It has a 13 megapixel ultra wide and Z camera. I believe I remember seeing somewhere that the front camera is a 10 megapixel, but I'm sure we'll find that again here in a few. All day 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is good battery life out of this thing, and it has 5G connectivity again if you have that available in your area. Again, multitask, whatever. You can have 2 apps open at once. I mean, that's the thing that I kind of found very interesting about this. Let's see. So if you can kind of take into consideration all the things you can do with 2 different screens, I don't think there are a lot of games out there that take advantage of dual screen yet. So, but that is a thing that you would be capable of. Let's see. So I guess here they're probably playing a video up here and then, you know, typing a message out down here. And again, doing what? This is probably the gallery up here and sharing on whatever social media thing that looks like probably supposed to be Facebook or whatever. But my other thought was that you could be editing a picture or something up here and then be able to, you know, just quickly drop it over in a application down below. Power of 2 screens, freedom to choose one. Simply detach the second screen when you want to go minimal or enjoy the benefits of an extra display. See, this does a better job of showing it than what anything else I've tried to do so far. But there, it is. It's just a separate second screen down here. Or sorry, a separate case that your phone just kind of slots into. So, 5G are ready. Okay, so if you have AT&T and you have a 3G phone, they are constantly pestering the crap out of you right now to buy another phone. My current phone is a 4G phone, but it's the IMEI that they have for my phone is still the 3G phone that I had before this. So, yeah, I'm getting lots of voicemails and everything right now, and as soon as they hijack my phone and send it to a different place that I'm not trying to call, I'm going to tell them to stop it. So hopefully they will once we do that. All right. You don't actually. You can just if the SIM is the same as your old phone, you can actually just switch the SIM right over, and it's not a problem. You don't have to update your IMEI and all that sort of thing with them to make your phone functional. I'm sure they would love to know what phone and everything you have, but my phone works. I don't care. Yeah, in the data gathering age that we are in. Let's see. Yeah, so the processor that's in this thing is an Snapdragon 865 5G. Again, let's just throw 5G on everything. But anyway, yeah, so it is a Qualcomm processor that's in here. 8K recording, sure. This is what more pixels look like in case you weren't aware of what that was like. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything actually worth bringing up here. They're talking about the 64 megapixel camera. Hey, look, it's clearer because it's 64 megapixel instead of 16 megapixel, which is not applicable to what we have here. I don't know why we need to show that, but okay. Okay, so apparently it has some... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but it's got some kind of technology in it that helps separate your voice from background noise, I guess. So that is a thing as well. Let's see. 20.5:9 aspect ratio, which is interesting. I've always kind of been told that for content you're putting on or you know, trying to cater more to a phone audience with. Basically, it's a 2-to-1. So that would be an 18-to-9, and this is a 20.5-to-9. So I guess, yeah, different phones, you're going to get different aspect ratios and all that sort of thing on, so that's interesting. But yeah, so and it's kind of funny that okay, I guess up here they say 6.8 inch OLED. Gonna say that it was kind of interesting that they didn't push the OLED thing in here anywhere, but maybe that's becoming standard for phones by now. I'm not exactly sure. 5,000 milliamp battery, non-removable. I'm sure if you wanted to like deep solder stuff and that kind of thing, it may not be horrible to replace the battery inside of this thing. You're going to have to hit the back side of the phone with a heat gun and release the glue that's on the back side of the glass back that's on this phone in order to be able to get into that kind of thing. But it is inside of the phone. It's not an easily replaceable battery, FYI. A little bit of difficulty to replacing that, but it is 5,000 milliamp hours, so you should have plenty of battery for a long period of time. Basically, is what that's going to come down to. I have noticed on the 5T, if I really get in a high usage pattern with that phone, I can definitely kill that battery in a day's worth of time. So it'll be nice to have a bigger battery in this thing as well. Plus AI power management helps prolong usage. Let's throw the word AI in there too. So I'm sure there's some technologies in there that actually do kind of help with that, with the battery life of the phone. Not trying to completely downplay that, but it is, the more words we can throw on things, the more value it has, right? Okay, so it has like a stabilization built-in kind of deal to it, which, you know, all your GoPros and all that sort of thing are kind of coming with now too. It's becoming a lot more standard to have that as an option. I'm sure all the DSLRs and stuff you're going to be looking at will probably have that as well. So, but this phone does have stabilization software built into it. If my phone tries to ASMR me, I'm going to have a problem with that. You only ASMR me when I tell you to. Thank you. Let's see. Is it actually an ASMR mode? That's interesting. Okay. I don't know much about it, but apparently that's a thing. So the wide angle camera that's on the back side of the phone that we talked about, that is not the 64 megapixel camera. There is less resolution in this camera as well for a wider picture. However that works. Take expansive pictures and leave nothing out with an incredible 117 degree field of view. So 117 degree lens on that thing. Sure. Sorry, it is getting a little bit later. So your phone has LG Pay as well if you want to do the tap to pay. Kind of like Apple Pay, but different. I'm sure they don't want that compared to Apple Pay, but it is a similar technology. Let's see. And also, if your reader doesn't have that tap to pay deal, that your LG Pay probably isn't going to work. So, let's see. Okay, so something you have to download on the phone in order to actually have on the phone. Apparently, it's not pre-installed, which is something else that's interesting about this phone. I'm going to find out how much bloatware is on this thing and how much I'm going to want to reinstall a fresh OS on this thing out of the box. We'll figure that out when we get there. It's one of the nice things about being Android phones are actually Linux-based. They're Linux-based operating systems, so you can kind of mess around with everything as you want. Make yourself happy. Let's see. Okay, so down here's the star. Compatible with select credit and debit cards from participating banks. Not all. Let's see. Coming soon to additional LG smartphones. Gotcha. No, it's not. Because you don't produce anymore. Let's see. Apparently, it uses tokenization, which adds an extra layer of security. I don't know how difficult that is to break through, but it probably is breakable, just like everything else. Free second year limited warranty with registration, so you have to register the phone in order to get your 2-year warranty through this phone, apparently. So, yeah, apparently this phone is available through AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon, and US Cellular, which, what was the name of what that used to be? I can't remember. There was a different name that company used to go under, but so AT&T is GSM unlocked. I think T-Mobile and Verizon, I think, are on a different deal. So make sure whenever you get your phone that it is compatible with the bands and everything that your phone is made to operate in. Actually, we can just go right here. Okay, so let's take a special look at the dual screen that I do not have. With a 360-degree free-stop hinge, flip the screen around or lock it in place at any angle. So you can, kind of use it as a stand, or you can kind of like flip it over to where you got a screen on both sides if you really want to. Don't know why you'd want to do that, because you'd be pressing buttons on one thing while you're trying to, hold it or whatever. But, if you really wanted to do that, you could. Let's see. But that is good that you can't break the hinge by over bending it. So that's a plus. Let's see. See essentials at a glance. The cover display allows you to view the time and notifications, like when messages are received, while the dual screen is closed. So apparently it has stuff on the back side of it as well that will constantly display things for you, which seems like it would probably be a problem for the battery. As far as I know, also, I don't believe the second screen has another battery, so that is going to kind of play into your 5,000 milliamp hour battery life. So bear that in mind. So like the phone by itself may last, if it lasts 2 days, then it may only last, it would probably last a little bit more than a day with the second screen, because you're not running the processor and everything off of it. But you are looking at a shorter battery life using the second screen, I'm sure. Yeah, talking about having extra controls down here for games that may actually use dual screen. Like I say, they're probably fairly slim choices at this point, because you don't have a whole lot of dual screen phones out there just yet. Unless it's talking about making your own controller at the bottom. I'm not sure about that. On the go mini laptop, sure. Convert your smartphone into a mini laptop while on the go with the LG Smart Keyboard. Use the entire bottom display as a full screen virtual keyboard to write emails, edit presentations, text or search, web, and full screen on the top display. So you're definitely going to have more real estate there for your typing than what you would on a single screen phone if you use the bottom screen solely for a keyboard. So that is a thing. You can be stylish with your second screen, sure. Please don't buy things just for a status symbol. That's kind of wasteful. But let's see. So you can have the web page on one screen, see more details on the other while reading articles, shopping, and more. Again, I don't see a whole lot of places actually taking full advantage of that. So take that with a grain of salt, probably. Add a personal touch to images. Use the second screen to instantly view your pictures without having to exit the camera app. Try out different filters and edit on the main screen while previewing your full-size image on the dual screen. So I guess you could have like a filter applied and previewing that over here as you're like turning your phone to look for where you're wanting to take the picture at or whatever. Interesting, I guess. Not something that I would consider a big selling point for that, but again, that is an option. Alright, so I guess we can dive into actual specs here. 6.8 inch OLED, full high definition, plus cinematic full vision displays. 20.5 to 9 aspect ratio. It is a 2460 by 1080 screen. So you still get the 1080 resolution as far as your width of your screen. But chipset that's in this thing is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 octa-core. Let's see, internal memory, 128 gigabytes up to 99 gigabytes usable, probably because part of that 128 is taken up by the OS and all the other stuff that is already on the phone. Expandable up to 2 terabyte with a micro SD card, so that is the other thing to bear in mind here, that you have expandable storage. So your camera, triple rear camera, is 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel wide angle, 117 degree field of view Z camera. Your front is a 10 megapixel front facing camera, which we'll go over here in a minute, is actually less detailed than what the front camera on my 5T was, but you know, it is what it is. The 865 also, I don't believe, was top of the line for the 800 series Snapdragon processors. I wouldn't be surprised if we're on a 900 series by now. There probably are newer processors available, but again, this thing is still a pretty large upgrade over the 5T. So, audio, we got 32-bit hi-fi quad digital to analog converter, so it's got a DAC built in, I guess. Interesting. They must be outputting that through the 3.5mm jack on the bottom. Again, I'm not really... There was a thing, too, that was for a while back. It was like the more bits you had, the better the audio was supposed to be or something. It was another kind of selling point. I don't think it's as big a deal as what everybody plays it out to be. Your file format's kind of a bigger deal when it comes to lossless audio and that kind of thing. The 32-bit can be a bit of a selling point. Not to say that they're, like, when you get in a paper world, that it may be better to have 32-bit than 32-bit than 16 or whatever, but, you know, take that with your grain of salt. And if you have the opportunity to listen to things back to back and actually compare them, you may find that that difference isn't as big as what you seem to think, or what the manufacturer wants you to think, not what you actually think. You think right because you heard them back to back, so... Anyway, Wi-Fi 6 capable, so 802.11ax. This will connect up just fine with that. You should have a little bit faster speed than what we did on 802.11ac. So, a little bit of an upside to that. Bluetooth 5.1, a USB Type-C charging port, capable of wireless charging. Okay, so... here's your charging standard that we were talking about earlier. Qualcomm Quick Charge 4.0 Plus. If you get a separate wall adapter, you want one that has Quick Charge 4.0 Plus for this phone. If you're going to take full advantage of what this phone is capable of quick charging at. There are like older specs for this, so like 3.0, 2.0 exist as well, and there are different charging standards. OnePlus actually had its own stuff, and it was really difficult to find that charger. Basically, you had to go back to an OEM charger in order to have that capability. They had updated it. There was a newer version of it that probably was backwards compatible with the older version just fine. But yeah, when you get into chargers, especially when you get into the wall adapter, it can get interesting if you want to be able to fast charge your phone. You can use a regular USB charger for your phone, and it'll work fine. It's just going to slow charge it. It won't charge it as quickly as what your original charger will. Then we talked about a 5,000 milliamp hour battery on the back side of the thing. In-display fingerprint sensor. So that's kind of what I was thinking. The fingerprint scanner is actually built into the glass on these now, on a lot of phones. So that's kind of what I was expecting. Whereas the old 5T had an actual separate fingerprint reader on the back side of the phone. So things change. It is actually built into the screen of the phone now. So let's see. And I know there were things where like they were trying to build speakers into the screens and everything like that too. One of the other interesting things about this also is that the screen is actually the big part of your heatsink for this phone, for all phones nowadays. Because if you stop and think about the amount of surface area you have in that compared to how much surface area as far as like the metal bits that are around the outside of the phone, you have way more screen real estate, and that's where most of your heat losses actually are. So another interesting little tidbit of information there that I didn't know until I heard recently. Let's see, full LG V60 tech specs. We don't need to really download that. We're going to look at them here in a minute. Dual screen specifications. Okay, now this is probably going to be a little bit harder to find. Is there anything more than this? Not really. Okay. So, really fine print here, and I'm sure you could probably zoom in a little bit if you wanted to. So, let's see. Okay, and this is just compatible with the LG V60. Like, make sure you're not getting a dual screen for a different phone or anything. This is specifically for this phone. Make sure you're getting the right stuff because that is an expensive mistake to make. The second screen is also 2460 by 1080, 395 pixels per inch, which is actually a little bit worse than what the 5T was, but again, we'll get into other specs here in a little bit. The 5T's screen was actually a little more compact, so. Okay, so your actual V60 size and weight is 6.67 inches tall, whereas the dual screen is 6.93 inches tall, so it's actually a little bit taller, the dual screen is. Your width is 3.06 inches on the phone. The dual screen is 3.39 inches, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because you're going to have that extra case that wraps around the outside of the phone, so the phone itself is going to be a little bit smaller. Your depth of the phone is 0.35 inches, whereas your dual screen is 0.59 inches. So I guess I'm going to have to put my foot in my mouth earlier for saying that the dual screen is actually thinner than what the phone was. It doesn't seem to be, that doesn't seem to be the case here, it looks like. And then your phone itself, which is actually, it feels decently bulky. I guess because of all the glass and everything in it. But the phone itself is 7.54 ounces, whereas your screen, or your dual screen, is 4.73. Again, it doesn't have all the processor and all the extra stuff in the backside of it, so kind of makes sense. You're going to make a 12.27 ounce phone if you do run both screens. So again, it's a bulky deal to have both. But again, if you're into the productivity side of things, it's a small price to pay, I would think. Again, I don't have it, so I guess it's really kind of something that I probably shouldn't speak on too much, but because I don't have first-hand experience with it. But anyway, okay, so second screen doubles as a virtual joystick or game controller for mobile gaming. So apparently the second screen does have a built-in gamepad, I guess. Use second screen as a live viewfinder when taking photos. That doesn't make... Okay, I don't get why that's a thing that's really that much of a selling point, but okay. Cover display, view time and notifications when the device is folded. So it has a display on the backside of it as well, which is interesting. So you're almost kind of triple screening. LG Smart Keyboard, we talked about that a little bit ago. My Pick app keeps most used apps open on second screen. Okay. I don't know that I would want that open all the time because that's going to use up more RAM, and when we only have 8 gigs to start with. So let's see. Simultaneous multitasking subject to streaming app capability, compatible with games that support Bluetooth controllers. Okay, so apparently that gamepad is not applicable for everything. It has to. The game has to support a Bluetooth controller in order for that to be a thing. Interesting. Okay, so that's starting to make a little more sense. So the phone actually connects to your... Sorry, the dual screen connects to your phone via Bluetooth, is what it sounds like. So, all right, we've got that. Let's go back. And let's see what else have we got here. Camera. I guess we're going to go into some detail about the camera here. Sorry, we're probably dragging on quite a bit with this phone, but I want to kind of hit all this stuff here. We're probably going to hit some of this multiple times, but... ultra-wide angle, 64 megapixel images, look great when blown up. Okay. So, again, 64 megapixel rear, 13 megapixel ultra-wide, 10 megapixel front camera. It's the same stuff we've already looked at. Built-in Photo Pro. So the feature recognizes and analyzes what you are capturing and auto-adjusts lighting, composition, color saturation for a flawless finish. Plus get notified of blinks or blur. So it's got automatic settings in it. All right. Got it. HDR10 Plus. Okay, so apparently we have HDR capabilities. Let's see. Let's shoot videos with rich shades and unreal color depth while maximizing brightness and increasing contrast, which with you having an OLED screen, you can take a little more advantage of. So, kind of see here, it does brighten up the colors a bit. Or it makes them more dramatic, I guess. Because if I remember right, I think HDR actually messes with contrast more than anything else. So, let's see. Again, we've got stabilization built in, time-lapse control. Okay, so it has a time-lapse option built into it. 3D photo effect. Separate the foreground and the background to create the perception of depth. Simply snap a picture and tilt the phone to see more of the background. So I don't know if that's a depth of field thing that it's doing. Kind of sounds like it. I guess we'll get into the f-stops available on these phones here or on the cameras here in just a little bit. AI night mode, lighten up your memories even when the sun goes down. The feature detects low light scenes. Auto adjust to capture brighter photos. So again, we have auto detecting ISO settings in this thing. Or ISO, I don't know how you say it, but whatever. Auto things. Got it. Okay, so it gives you information here on attaching the LG dual screen. So we'll start with the bottom, then press the top end. Okay. Turning LG dual screen on and off. Once the screen is connected to the device, a floating power button will appear on the right border of the screen. So it's going to be that little thing right there, I suppose. Tap this button once and select turn on dual screen. Accessing the menu. When using the dual screen, use the floating button on the right side of the screen to access the dual screen menu. From here, you'll be able to turn dual screen on or off, swap screens, and put the main screen to sleep. Okay. I wonder if this is going to be all dual screen type stuff. Which I guess is something you can also take a look at too if you actually are looking at the dual screen. But I'm just going to kind of scroll through it here because it's not applicable to what I have. And I can't really show you because I don't have one. Let's see, adjusting settings. Swipe down the notification bar on the main screen, tap settings in the upper right corner of the screen. So that's something that's pretty common amongst the Android phones that I've had previously, so hopefully it should be pretty self-explanatory, I would think. Choose the display tab and tap dual screen. From here you can adjust the dual screen's brightness and wallpaper. Okay, so they're talking about when you get in settings that you can change the dual screen stuff from settings. Okay. To quickly move an app from one screen to the other, use 3 fingers and swipe to the side. Interesting. Okay. Using the gamepad, open the LG Game Launcher, then tap the gamepad-looking symbol with the LG Gamepad, or within the LG Gamepad, there is a panel where you can toggle haptic feedback, vibration, and console style, or exit the LG Gamepad. Okay. How to create your own gamepad. So there's that. You can pause it if you want to take a look at that. Sharing screenshots. Quickly share a screenshot of the dual screen. Located within the LG keyboard. Okay, so I don't know if that's a thing to where the main screen will screenshot the second screen for you, and you can quickly add it. That's kind of what it sounds like. Why do I keep scrolling up? I just need to... Okay, so... Whatever. These are just going to be user reviews. If you want to look at these are going to change. You can look at them yourself. And then there's a buy now button. Okay, so that is everything on LG's website as far as what this phone entails, everything about it. So what I kind of wanted to do was go in here and compare the LG V60 that I'm going to be switching to the OnePlus 5T that I currently have. These prices are interesting because $117.50 has to be a used phone, and that's probably a current bid, not a buy it now. I wouldn't figure. So, yeah, I wouldn't give that too much weight. But so yeah, the phone I had actually wasn't lava red. I don't know, that's just kind of what they popped up here. And then 128 gig model for the V60. Okay, whatever. But we can see with the 5T, the way they're rating this, the V60 kind of takes the cake in all situations, I believe, is what they're showing here. Okay. So, things we can kind of take into consideration here, that the 5T still does better than the V60. Again, for being a 4-year-old phone, this is something to kind of be interested in, I suppose. The PPI, again, is a little bit more dense. Again, we have a different screen ratio. Can't really think of the correct word for that right off the top of my head right now. Again, it's getting a little bit later here. My brain is working less. 13.29 faster CPU speed. And that's not... Okay, so the number of gigahertz that the processor can run is not the only thing we want to look at. The way Big Little works, there is one core that will work at 2.84 gigahertz. Okay, we're on the V60. I guess I should clarify that. The 5T does not have Big Little architecture in the processor for that, so it has 8 cores that just run at a flat 2.45 gigahertz maximum, instead of having multiple cores being able to run some at this speed and then others at a lower speed in order to conserve battery life. So we have in the V60 we have one that's going to run at 2.84 gigahertz. We're going to have 3 of them that will run at 2.42. So we've already got 4 processors that will basically run at the same, 4 cores that will run at the same speed as the older processor, within 0.03 of a gigahertz. And yeah, it's not, you're not going to run into many applications on a phone that you're using a full 8 cores on. If you're multitasking, you may have a little bit more of that, but it's not something you're going to use a whole bunch of. But anyway, if you need them, they're there. Your other 4 are going to only be capable of 1.8 gigahertz on the V60. So if you need a full 8 core, if you run a task that's going to use a full 8 cores, like if you're, I don't know, if you're video editing on your phone and rendering out videos, I could see that being something that would maybe use 8 cores, depending on what kind of, again, it's going to come down to your editing software and everything too, or whether or not they'll actually leverage those 8 cores. Anyway, you're probably not going to run into a lot of situations where that's going to matter a lot. So again, your front camera is 16 megapixel on the 5T as opposed to 10 megapixel on the V60. It is... Let me fix that really quickly. Whoops. Alright, I'm going to wait for that to spin down and stop here, and then we'll continue. Hopefully soon. Here we are. Okay, so The 5T is also about 75% of the weight, we'll say. And, you know, holding both phones, there's a noticeable difference in weight of them. And I assume that's probably because the 5T didn't have a glass back on it. A lot of phones nowadays are coming with glass backs on them, and glass definitely weighs a little bit more than what, you know, thin metal or plastic would. So it's probably where part of our extra weight with the V60 comes in. And then also it's a bigger screen. You've got more stuff inside of the phone. But the 5T, apparently they consider it better to be thinner, so 1.65 millimeters thinner. It's a little less bulky. Okay. Has integrated LTE, which the V60 can probably run LTE stuff just fine too. The GPU clock speed is a little bit higher on the 5T. Again, clock speeds are not everything. And it has a manual focus for the camera where the V60 does not. Okay. Sure. But then we get into the good things for the V60. So 5,000 milliamp hours opposed to 3,300 milliamp hour for the battery. Again, if you're using the dual screen, not really going to matter as much. But you do have a much higher capacity battery in the V60. I'm kind of hoping, well, it's probably not going to be a full 2 days worth of battery for me. It's probably going to be like a day and a half, but won't have to charge as often, so that's cool. It is a higher resolution phone. They are both 1080 in width. The V60 just has that 20.5 by 9 aspect ratio. There was the word I couldn't think of earlier. So it is a little bit higher resolution. Yeah. So our main camera is 64 megapixels opposed to 20 in the 5T. You get a 6.8 inch screen as opposed to a 6-inch screen. And that's mostly in the height of the phone. I can show you those here in just a minute. It's dust proof and water resistant, so it probably has an IPv rating. I would hazard a guess that the 5T probably had some of that as well. It just may not be as high of an IPv rating. So the V60 has an external memory slot if you want to run, you know, your SD card. Weather sealed. This is incorrect, so we're going to ignore that one. See, I haven't even seen anything about a 256 gig version, so I think this is actually just blatantly wrong on this website, but let's see. So I assume this is stuff we're going to go over down here as well, right? Screen size, resolution, pixel density, design, volume, height, width, thickness, weight, performance. Yeah, okay, so all this stuff up here is stuff we're going to go over down here later. If you want a quick overview of stuff, that's all up here, but I'm me, and we're going to talk forever about stuff that probably is going to bore the crap out of you. So, it says the 5T is not dust-proof and water-resistant or weather-sealed. I don't know how much I'd buy into that, but it may not have, again, the same rating. It may not be as good, but it's still, like, you're not going to destroy it by splashing a little bit of moisture up on it. So, weight, again, we're looking, the 5T is a little bit lighter. It is also thinner. There's not as much width there, and it's not as tall. The website actually says that they consider smaller dimensions better. I mean, I guess if you want more screen space, that's not going to be the case. Just stuff to take into consideration for the V60 is a little bit bulkier. And when it comes to like absolute volume of the phone, you can see that there is a rather significant difference in how much space the V60 takes up in comparison to the 5T. Now, as phones get newer, they also seem to be growing as well, so that may just be part of how phones are getting bigger as we go also. Neither of them have a physical keyboard, so we don't have that going for us. That would be a cool feature to have. If I could rank anything that I would like to have, that's kind of up there. But again, it's not a make or break deal for me. I'm more interested in having the 3.5mm jack in the bottom of the phone, and then the processor, the RAM, all that sort of stuff, the storage. So again, we did state that the 5T has a little bit better pixel density. The screen resolution is lower. Screen size is, I would say that 8/10 of an inch. When we're talking 6-inch screens, 8/10 of an inch is a rather significant difference. Has branded damage resistant glass. Both of them have that. We can see right below here, both of them have Gorilla Glass 5. So that's what we've got there. Neither of them are IPS, but they are both OLED. They are both touchscreen. Sure, hopefully by this point. Okay, so the V60 has an option for an always-on display if you have the dual screen. That is not exactly 100% the case. So, FYI, this is not always applicable. Neither of them have a sapphire glass display, Force Touch, e-paper, doesn't display 3D, which is interesting because we were over on the website and LG was talking about it had a 3G photo thing, or sorry, 3D photo thing, which again, I think it may just be a depth of field. It may not really be 3D. So, okay, so it has a secondary screen. They checkmarked it on the V60. That is optional. Not necessarily always the case. Not in my case, so grains of salt everywhere. Both have 8 gigs of RAM. We talked here a little bit earlier about the processor that's in these things and how the speed that they operate at. They did knock the V60 a little bit for that, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Most of your operations you're going to be doing on a phone are going to be single core, so you're going to be taking advantage and leveraging that 2.84 gigahertz a lot more than what this kind of would lead you to believe. So this thing's simple. It computes based on numbers, so it doesn't have all that stuff kind of taken into consideration on it. The V60 does have the external SD slot. If the 5T has it, I never messed around with it, so this may be true that the 5T does not have it. I'm not 100%, but also this is again probably incorrect. I believe it's incorrect. I don't think I've ever seen a 256 gig V60 yet, or at least this one is not. It's 128 gig storage and 8 gigs of RAM. And let me tell you, as long as you're not installing a bunch of games and everything, 128 gigs of storage goes a long way on a phone. Now, granted, we're going to be taking a lot bigger pictures and everything with this too, so I guess there is that to take into consideration as well. But so it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have an SD card, or was it a mini SD card, micro SD? I can't remember. But anyway, have an SD card handy. So again, LTE integrated. I guess that must be something to do with the processor. So the 5T had an 835. The V60 has an 865. Again, updated from what I had previously. So, and this is one of the things that kind of lends itself into the performance of the processor. Okay, so the 5T has a 10 nanometer processor, whereas the V60 is going to have a 7 nanometer processor. And this kind of plays into like heat output and a lot of other things. Instructions per clock IPC is something else that makes a difference besides just the megahertz that the CPU is running at. Honestly, I think we're going to get a lot better performance out of the V60 as opposed to the 5T. If you want to look up a comparable way to look at performance of a processor versus another, go to look for Geekbench results. There are places that have benchmarked, phone. They'll have actual scores for the processor inside of the phone versus another one. Geekbench is one of the ones that gets used. There are other ways to test the processor inside of the phone as well. You'll have some people that don't like Geekbench as a test. It's one way to test. So Um, yeah, look up actual benchmarks for the phones if you want to see the actual performance of one processor as opposed to the other. We may look those up in a second here. I'm not sure. We probably will. Just give me a few minutes. We'll get to it here. GPU clock speed, again, on the 835 is higher than what it is on the 865. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the GPU in the 835 is better than the 865. But RAM speed on the 865 is 2750 megahertz, whereas it was 1866 back on the 835. So our RAM is actually going to process things more quickly. There is usually a latency impact as far as running faster RAM, but usually the speed is speed is king when it comes to RAM speed. So that little bit of latency hit that we probably are going to have for a higher frequency, the RAM's still going to operate better in the 865. Both of them are 64-bit operating systems. I hope so by this point. Both of them have integrated graphics. We don't have a separate graphics card inside of our phone, so that makes sense, I guess. So it's saying here that the 5T does have big little technology, which I find interesting, but okay. That may not be correct, but I'm also not 100% on that. So that would, warrant a little more research. But both of them have 8 CPU threads. Both of them are DirectX 12. Let me start getting into stuff that isn't really... I'm not as up on what all these things do, so if they matter to you, here they are. But I'm not going to talk on them too much. Let's see. Because, again, we're kind of running a little bit long on this unboxing, and I want to get on to some other stuff as well. Dynamic frequency scaling is a technology that allows the processor to conserve power and reduce noise. Okay, so it can scale frequency on the processor is basically what that's saying. Sure. Okay, so AES I know is an encryption thing. That I'm not familiar with. That I'm not. OpenGLES version, front end width, OpenCL version, bits executed at a time. I don't know if that's supposed to be like 100. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that because I'm probably going to say something wrong and stupid. But okay, so that's actually interesting. So the 865 has 4 memory channels as opposed to the 835 only having 2, and more channels basically means you have more ways to send data back and forth. I don't know if that's going to operate like lanes where if one gets cleared out, then it's got the ability to go back and get something else. Wait. Okay, so this is just the CPU being able to decode more IPC, not necessarily the IPC of the phone. Okay. Anyway, yeah, what I was thinking of is, what I'm thinking of is actually threads and not channels. So I don't know. Again, I'm saying dumb stuff, and I'm not going to pay attention to it. I don't know what eMMC is. ECC is something that you're only going to have in like workstation type computers. This computer that I have here has ECC memory in it. For it to be in your phone would be very interesting. You would have to be doing some very important stuff on your phone in order to warrant the manufacturer putting ECC in it. I don't think there are very many people that would actually leverage that being useful. Not to say that it's a bad thing. It is a good thing. You can have more bit errors in the data that you're sending back and forth in the phone, and the ECC memory will actually correct it. Uses multi-threading. Okay, so that's interesting. It'd be interesting to know if there are actually phones out there that use multi-threading. I mean, obviously, if it's got it listed as an option here, there are some. But, so, if you have 8 cores and you have multi-threading, you would have 16 threads, which would be 16 logical processors inside of the phone that it would be able to do twice as much. Your cores still have, it's not necessarily twice as much. It has twice as many threads. I don't know really how to explain that any better than that. I'm sure somebody else can explain it much better than I can. Okay, and then as far as the RAM, the 865 is using DDR5, whereas the 835 was using DDR4. So we're on a newer memory standard for the phone as well, which is interesting. So now I have DDR5 in my phone before it ever gets used in any of the computers. Okay, so going into the cameras, the 5T had a 20 megapixel rear and 16 megapixel front, whereas the V60 has a 64 megapixel rear camera. So I'm getting a much better camera in the rear camera. That's how we'll phrase that. 0.3 megapixels is not correct. Unless it has a third rear-facing camera, and that's what it's talking about, but I don't think it does. There is... Okay, actually it does look like maybe they're... See, I don't know if that's another LED or what that is. Anyway, there's a bunch of sensors in the back of this thing. I don't know if it's a third camera or not. I don't know why 0.3 megapixel would make a difference, but... Anyway, 64 and 13 are what we have in the rear for... for the V60. And actually the 5T does have two rearward facing cameras as well, so that is also 20 and 16, and then it has an additional 16 in the front. So the 5T does not have built-in stabilization. Again, with it being a little bit older, wasn't as common then. This is stating that the camera in the V60 is only capable of 4K 30, whereas we were just looking on LG's website saying it was capable of 8K. So this probably isn't good information either, which really makes me question this down here, but this is saying only 2K for the 5T. Which, I believe this thing does have a 4K option in it. So I think this must be like having what the phone's capable of doing. I'm fairly certain there is a 4K video option inside of the 5T. So I think both of those are about half of what they should be, I believe. Alright, so f-stops on the cameras. 1.8 and 1.9 is what we have for the rearward facing cameras. Again, the lower the f-stop, the more depth of field that you can actually have in the picture. So it'll blur the background more. So the 5T it's saying has 1.7 and 1.7, so actually it can create a little bit better depth of field effect. And you can change f-stops depending on your zoom and all that sort of thing as well. So that's something else that kind of goes along with that. That f-stop could be variable. So anyway, both have dual tone LED, BSI sensor, whatever that is, backside illuminated sensors, a camera image sensor which captures better quality images in poor lighting. Okay, so it might be saying the ISO isn't automatically adjustable in the 5T. Continuous autofocus when recording movies. Okay. You know what, I really haven't messed with recording video on the 5T enough to know that if you change where you're trying to focus, if it automatically adjusts focus on it. I've never had an issue with it in the times that I have tried, so that may be kind of a moot point also. But I'm sure having it is probably better than not having it. Let's see. It's phase detection, autofocus for photos. Okay, so apparently both of them have the faster autofocus method. Support slow motion video recording. Built in HDR mode. That's interesting. I didn't know the 5T had HDR. Both of them have flash. You can do manual exposure on the V60. Okay, I don't know what a CMOS sensor is. I know what clearing CMOS on a motherboard is, but I don't know what it is as far as like an actual sensor for a camera. Both of them allow you to manually set ISO. I haven't really messed around in the 5T to find that, so I don't know if I'm going to mess around and find it in the V60. That may not be something that I particularly leverage use of a whole lot, but it is a thing. Apparently you can do burst pictures in the V60, but not the 5T. Again, I can't verify that right offhand. I'm not sure. Multi-lens main camera, okay. Manual focus on the 5T and not the V60, which again, I don't know why you would... If you can tap to autofocus on what you want to autofocus on, autofocus really isn't a bad thing in this situation, I don't think. Especially when you're trying to do recording video and that kind of thing. Both of them have front cameras, okay. Neither of them shoot 360 panoramas. Alright. Neither of them have laser autofocus. This must just not have data on optical zoom on both of them, because I know the 5T has it, but... Or no, it's digital zoom. I'm sorry. That I'm thinking of. Not optical. So I don't know about that. Manual white balance. Okay, again, haven't really messed with it. Shoots raw images. The LG V60 does. The 5T does not. Haven't messed with it to verify. Both of them have touch autofocus. Both of them have 2 flash LEDs. I want to know what camera has like 5 or 6 or whatever this must be. It's pretty crazy. Manual shutter speed. So you can't really mess with shutter speed on either of them. There must be some phones out there that are more camera than they are phone. That would be interesting. These. Can create panoramas in camera. Okay, so apparently either of them can do that. Actually, the f-stop on the front camera for the V60 is a little bit lower than what the 5T is. I would not say 0.1 is enough to make any kind of a noticeable difference. Both of them apparently have the option to do time lapses. Neither have a multi-lens front camera, which you can kind of look at and see they only have one camera in the front of them. Front-facing LED flash. Apparently we have that on the V60, but not the 5T. I don't think I've ever seen a flash go off in the front of the 5T. I don't think it actually has a place to have it anyway. And if the V60 has it, I don't see it in the front of it, but maybe I'm missing it. Neither of them have RGB LED flashes. Manual gain. 3D photo, video recording capabilities. Okay, so again, it's saying that neither of them have 3D, but the V60 actually lists on the LG documentation that it does, so it may not be the 3D that they're specifically talking about here, I don't know. So the V60 we have stereo speakers, the 5T we do not. Both of them have the 3.5mm audio jack, which, like I was talking about before, was something that was kind of important for me. Apparently the V60 has a built-in FM radio tuner. Interesting. 4 microphones on the V60 as opposed to 3 in the 5T, which is probably a good thing because they do get clogged up with dirt and that kind of thing over time. I'm actually curious to see... The 5T actually has more ports on the bottom of it for its microphones. Unless it's picking up sound from different places than like the actual microphone on the bottom of the phone where it normally is. What I'm talking about is this probably isn't even going to come through. There's 5 holes down here on the bottom of the phone on the 5T, and there's 3 on the bottom of the V60. So, despite the number of holes in the speaker grill on the bottom, the 5T has less microphones. Neither of them have dedicated media keys. No surprise there. I mean, we're kind of smaller phones. We don't even have a full QWERTY keyboard, so makes sense. A lot bigger battery in the V60, again, with the capability of doing dual screen. That kind of makes sense. It says the 5T is not capable of wireless charging. I've never tried to use it. I don't like wireless charging. It builds up extra heat in the battery and causes the battery life to degrade, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference to me. Both of them are capable of fast charging. So apparently MediaTek has Pump Express as another method of quick charging, so... or fast charging, I guess is what I'm supposed to call it. Neither of them have an easily removable battery. They are removable if you're determined enough. Both of them have power saving modes, battery level indicators, rechargeable batteries. Apparently there are phones you can run off of AA's, I guess. I don't know. Maybe a satellite phone? Reverse wireless charging. Okay, so the device can be used to charge other things. So you can actually use the battery in the V60 to charge other things. That's interesting. I'm fairly certain I've used the 5T to charge a gimbal. So, oh, but that's talking about wireless, so okay. So yeah, that may very well be possible. Download speeds, 2,000 megabit per second as opposed to 600 megabit per second, and that's probably a difference in the Wi-Fi capability. Looks like the 5T at AC, 802.11 AC, so that'd be Wi-Fi 5. Wi-Fi 6 is 802.11 AX, and that may be where we're seeing our differences in our download speed. There could be other things that are limiting that as well, but I would say that's probably a big part of it. Not sure what NFC is. Okay, so near device communication, sure. Both of them have fingerprint scanners. DLNA certified, not really sure what that is. Bluetooth 5.1 on the V60 as opposed to 5 on the 5T. Both of them are dual SIM. Upload speed. Okay, so on the, this is important to me because especially streaming off of the phone, this matters. Now whether or not the network will hold these same speeds is something different, but the V60 is capable of up to 318 megabits per second, whereas the 5T is capable of 150. The V60 supports 5G, whereas the 5T does not support 5G. Again, you have to be in a situation where that's actually available, which I doubt it's going to be here. I'll find out when I'm walking around town, I guess. 5G also doesn't have a very wide range for the towers. Like, we don't even have 4G everywhere. Like, not everywhere even has cell phone service. So, to me, it's like 5G's cool if you live right next to it, but if not, okay. Let's see. Both of them are multi-user systems. Browser has a word wrap. Okay, sure. USB 3.1 is available in both. Both have a gyroscope. Surprise. Both of them are USB Type-C. Offline voice recognition. Okay. Well, I don't think that's something I'd ever really use much of. Free and open source. They're both on Android, so yes. I can see where if you're trying to control the camera on the phone from a remote location. Say you're sitting in the seat of a car, you're belted in, the phone's somewhere else in the car and it can still hear you. I can see where that may be of use. Both of them support Java. Don't know really what ANT Plus is, so neither of them support that apparently. Both of them can have widgets. Neither of them have heart rate monitor. Both of them have GPS. Surprise. Let's see. They both have a compass. Both have child locks. They both support Wi-Fi 4. Surprise. Both support Wi-Fi. Surprise. What else have we got here? GPS navigation with turn-by-turn directions. So apparently I can give you turn-by-turn directions for both. Bookmark syncing. Interesting. Okay, so I guess if you're using a certain browser, that it can sync those bookmarks across multiple devices. So that could be handy, I suppose. Sharing intents, not sure what that is. The accelerometer, okay, also not surprised. Infrared sensor, interesting. No HDMI output for both of them. Okay, not terribly surprising. Again, that's probably a fairly special thing. Both of them have cellular modules. Surprise. Customizable notifications. Go in settings, you can turn stuff off. Emojis available. This is something that we're going to bias what phones are good on. But apparently Android 10 is capable of having a few more than what Android 7 Nougat is. Nougat? I think it's Nougat. The V60 apparently has a built-in barometer, whereas the 5T did not. Both of them allow screenshots. Again, no major surprise there. Neither of them have facial recognition. Both of them have voice commands. Neither are intended to be used as a computer. Surprise. Neither has an iris scanner. Neither have a stylus included. Neither of them have AirPlay because they're not Apple devices. Okay. Not sure what Bluetooth aptX is, but apparently the V60 has it and the 5T does not. There's our Wi-Fi 6 that we were looking for earlier. Both of them support video chat because they have front cameras in them, I guess. Both of them can be used as hotspots. Both can be updated over the air. Both of them support 125 languages. They've both got Mind, so that works. It tracks the position of the device. Surprise. Free navigation software. Oh, as far as like a map software. So yeah, those both have that option. Copy and paste features in the web browser. That's still going to use data, so free in quotation marks, but sure. Copy and paste features in the web browser. I hope so. Search browser. I hope so. Free syncing OTA over the air. Contacts and calendar dates are synced over the air. Okay. So. Supports instant markup. Easily add notes to PDFs or screenshots using a stylus. Okay. Probably something I'm not going to use a whole lot of. Galileo. Not sure what that is. Motion tracking. Okay. Neither of them have it. No big. Optical tracking. No big deal. Built-in projector. If you have a phone with a built-in projector, I imagine that's a fairly bulky phone. That would be an interesting feature, though. And I think that's everything that's on this website. So that is a pretty thorough comparison of the old OnePlus 5T that I had compared to the LG V60 that we have now. Okay. And I think that pretty well sums up everything we had on the phone. So, well, except for one thing. I did tell you that I was going to show you physical dimensions of phones in comparison to one another. So if we line up the phones side by side, I think there is very slightly more room over here on the side of the V60, and it's probably not even coming through the picture. I mean, what I probably should do is take the case off the back of the 5T so that you have a little more apples to apples comparison, because the case is going to make the 5T look a little bit bigger. Or not the case, the protector, I guess. But again, if we hold these things side by side, the V60 does have a little bit more side-to-side screen real estate. There's a little bit bigger screen. There you go. But this thing's like sliding around. It's impossible to hold in place. And then if we hold the 5T down at the very bottom, you can see just how much extra screen real estate there is at the top of this thing. It is pretty significantly taller. And of course I have the V60 upside down. But yeah, dimension-wise they are much larger. And then again, thickness, I don't think this is anything you're really going to be able to see on camera, but they are, like, the V60 is a little bit thicker and you really can't, I can't get them lined up perfect enough to really make it appear on camera. So that is a quick look at the dimensions of the phones. Again, V60 is slightly wider, much taller. And that's probably in that 20 to 5 or 20.5 to 9 ratio, aspect ratio that it has. So anyway, that's phones for tonight. So those are cool. Sweet. Let's move on. I can already tell you I'm starting to get a little bit tired. Okay, I had chat issues there for a second, but I'm not showing that the stream dropped, so hopefully everything's there. Anyway, we're done with phones for tonight, which is good because apparently I've already talked for an hour and 45 minutes about those things. So, water break before we move on to tools here. I can go dumber now, and also I'm probably not going to be looking into the Miata's wiring on this stream here. We'll probably look into that later. I do want to do that on stream so I can kind of show you guys what we're looking at for a modification we're going to make to the car. But I am getting tired. It is 11 o'clock, and I don't really feel like doing that right now. I still have to like fix food and eat and all that sort of thing too. So yeah, I'm going to cut that for tonight. We'll just talk about the two tools that we've got here. Well, the two sets of tools plus the one tool that I got. Two of the sets are very similar, so they're kind of one unboxing to me. Coffee give me life. All right. So, getting into tools. Get up a little bit closer to the microphone here. The first tool that we're going to quote unquote unbox tonight. Pull this off here really quickly too. Not that it matters. You can find my name elsewhere if you want to find it, but make it a little bit more difficult at least. Is a special tool we have from Honda. So, YouTube, you guys were not around. The live stream at least was not around for doing the timing chain, and basically we ended up in a camshaft replacement. Not a full replacement. We ended up having to take it out and get it fixed and then put it back in. But on my little brother's Acura TSX, which has a K24Z3 in it, the Honda K-Series engines will use this tool. So there's your part number for it. So you have that nice and close. All right. What this thing does is it helps pin the camshafts into place when you have the timing chain off the engine. So, pull this thing out of here for you to look at it. So, there's our unboxing. I pulled it out of the bag. It's been unboxed. So, basically what this is two 5mm roll pins on the end of a cable. And if you really wanted to, you could make one of these. But, honestly, for, like, this thing's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $20 for you to go buy. And for the time that it would save on doing that job, I would absolutely recommend having one of these if you're looking at doing a timing chain on a Honda K-Series. You can use like 5mm hex keys and that kind of thing if you're in a jam and you got to do something in a hurry and you don't have time to wait on one of these to show up. But these things are perfectly fitted to fit back in the engine, and I'll show you a picture here in just a minute and for exactly where these go. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, but and also these roll pins, more often than not, they're hardened steel, so they're a real pain in the butt to drill through to get your cable through. And this has a real nice lock cable end on it. Like this is a nice setup. And again, for $20, it's going to save you that much time on your first timing chain job on a Honda K Series. If you are if you're doing it for profit, if not, it's worth $20 just for the less headache. So that is the tool. Let me show you here really quickly where this thing goes. All right, so here's kind of a smaller picture, I guess. It should be plenty visible, but my light's starting to die off. So these two pins are going to go back in through the little, I guess these are, so your camshaft sensor will be down here. These, I believe, are magnetic to some degree, but they fit back through the I don't even know what to call that right now. Again, it's getting late. My brain's like dying on me here, but the little sensors that are on the back side of the camshaft, you can actually have a hole in them, and this cam cap has a little bit of a hole in it too. So these actually pass completely through that the little sensor on the end here and into the cam cap in order to pin the camshaft in place. So once you get these things fitted back in here, this camshaft can't roll. Now, if you've been back in this area of the engine, you know this isn't easy to get back into because there's like a fuel rail, not a fuel rail, but like a fuel pipe that runs along here. You've got both of those sensors in. There's a bunch of wiring that runs along here. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get back into here. So these things aren't terribly easy to pass back into there, and it's not as easy to see this. I'm glad they had all the stuff out of the way for this picture. It makes it a lot easier to see back in there. But whenever you get into this, it's not fun. But if you have to pull the timing chain, if you have to go messing with the tensioner or anything, you want to be able to pin the camshafts in place so that they don't move. Make your life a lot easier for setting timing again. I mean, if the camshafts move, you can reset it. It's not the end of the world, but this is just going to make your job a little bit faster. So that is where those go in the engine. So, all right, let's switch back. So that is one of our two tools that we're going to display tonight. The second one, well, second ones, I guess. One of the other things that I've acquired here recently are some Mac stud removers and installers. These will do both. So they have a set for SAE, and there's a set for metric. So I guess it would be valid information to share. Your metric are 3/8 drive, and they do have hexes on the backside, so if you want to operate them with a wrench, you can as well. The metric includes 6mm and 8mm stud pullers, and then you have 1/2 drive and the 10mm and 12mm. So actually I could have grabbed the other bolt that I was looking at earlier. I would have had an actual stud. Oh well, too late. Let me see, do they have anything else on here? Designed for hard to reach or confined spaces. Sure, if the tool fits, it fits. Utilizes 3 internal rollers that grip the stud securely in either direction for quick and easy removal or installation. And they are packaged in a convenient blow-molded case, not designed for impact use. Yeah, don't impact your studs into place, please. That's a very bad idea. Glad they clarified that. So, alright, I don't really think there's going to be a lot else to go over. Okay, so that's your sizes that are in the metric kit. Your SAE are, and your 3/8 drive is 1/4 and 5/16, and then your 1/2 drive is 3/8 and 7/16 studs for those. So I guess we'll unbox them both here and take a look. So remove the plastic off of this thing somewhere here. There we go. Found a weak corner. Go ahead and pull the plastic out of the way. Alright. And this apparently has a cardboard box around it. Let's get that opened up. It's kind of smashed on that end. I wonder if this end will be a little bit easier to open, maybe. Okay, if I don't get defeated by a cardboard box here. Don't make me tear you. Okay. Managed to do it cleanly. We're still in one piece. Alright, so here's our kit. There you go. So I guess this box really doesn't mean a whole lot anymore. So we've got 4 pullers inside of here. They call it pullers. They are also installers. I've actually used them more for removal than I have installing. Installing, you should be able to get it in, or get the stud in mostly by hand. Otherwise, you may need to clean up some threads. Do it with a chaser if you can, if you have one available. Chasers are ideal. Do it with a tap if you have to, but a tap will take away more material. So, anyway, I opened up the metric one here, so we can take a look at. I have a bolt that is 8mm. end of a bolt is still a stud. So we're going to take the 8mm adapter out of here. And one of the things that I've noticed with this, you don't want to go any tighter with this thing than what you have to. If it's really starting to put a lot of resistance on it, this thing is going to mark the threads that are on your bolt. It will leave basically like 3 little lines that run across the threads of the bolt. So the less pressure you can put on this thing, the better. So yeah, so this would be installing right now. So you start getting it to a certain point, and as you turn it, it tightens up on the end of the stud. And let me see if I can get my hand out of the way here. It'll actually tighten up on the end of the stud, and then you can actually start threading it back in. Now, as far as switching directions on this thing, I'm not sure exactly how you go about doing that. I don't know if you like flip it over to the other end of the stud. Well, it actually says on the end here, for hand use only as well. But it gives you a hex, so I'm fairly certain they're intending for you to either use a ratchet or a hex on the end of these. But, okay, that's to the right. Okay, so actually this thing just kind of does it itself. You turn it to the left and it'll grab. And you can also turn it to the right and it'll start grabbing as well. So if you need to install or remove either one, this thing does both. So I guess that's about all there is to talk about with those. There may be a little bit of additional information on the Mac site as well for those. If you need separate numbers for these, I should probably show you that. Which you probably saw in the box and everything too, so if you want to go back to that, you can see it. But SR4MA is your part number for the metric set, and then your SAE set is SR4FA. So those are available as well. I got these on a deal, so if you keep an eye out, Mac may very possibly do this again, where you buy one and you get the other for free. I forget which one was the more expensive. It was probably the metric. And it's probably a deal where if you buy the metric, you get the SAE for free. More often than not, that's kind of how those sale deals go. So, and if one is more expensive, usually it's the metric. I don't know what for. Most hardware and most automotive applications by this point are metric. So, yeah, you see less SAE, but for some reason it's still cheaper. But anyway, that is all the unboxings I have for tonight. I guess if you want to see the SAE kit out of the box, maybe do that really quickly. Here's the one that says fractional on it instead of metric. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the unboxings. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. Hopefully you learned something from them, and maybe some things that can make your life a little bit easier. We should have... I don't think I've got anything additional coming in at the moment, but there's always stuff that we need as far as like different tools for getting different jobs done and all that sort of thing. So I will be back to talk about the wiring stuff that we're going to be doing on the Miata. On the NB, I guess I should clarify. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to start your car with a screwdriver? Well, that's kind of where I am right now. We're going to see what we can do to fix that. So, yeah, I think that's all I've got to cover. If you check out Instagram, there's a bunch of new posts on there. I can't remember. I should probably actually bring the screen up so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of posts on here. I can't remember exactly where we stopped, but this is probably the final picture I took of the engine over in the over at the shop. This is where we were checking timing, doing a little bit of paint work up underneath the CRV. Then there's a bunch of tools here. I did kind of a tool series. Then we did a timing chain on my little brother's TSX. There's kind of a series there for that. It should be these 3 stops here. And then we get back into the CRV up to this point, and then I just recently made a post about the Parker ORD 5700 manual, which is a 700 and something page manual about O-rings if you really want to deep dive into different materials and what's most compatible with different what materials are most compatible with different chemicals and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of very good information on O-rings inside of that book, if you really want to be an O-ring junkie. So, anyway, that's the Instagram page. I am Best95Neon on there. Twitter, I believe I am Best95Neon as well. Or no, sorry, I am at 95Neoner on Twitter. So, if you guys look me up there, you can, kind of keep up with what I'm into. I don't really post as much on Twitter as I do on Instagram. Instagram is probably the best place. But, yeah. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel here, I will finally be able to switch over to doing all of my live streaming on YouTube. For the time being, I do also live stream over on Twitch. Anything that I've got to do from a mobile stream has to be on Twitch, because I currently cannot mobile stream to YouTube because of just different requirements they have for being able to mobile stream to their platform. So if you want to see working on these vehicles and that kind of thing, follow me over on Twitch as well. I believe I am Best95Neon there as well. Let me verify. Why is that not on this screen? Yes, I am Best95Neon on Twitch as well. But eventually I will switch over to do full-time here, as long as we can get the subscribers on the channel and everything that I need. So, anyway. With all of that rambling and talking and all that sort of thing done, appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, and we will see you in the next live stream, and then when this becomes a video, we will see you guys in the next video. Lots of stuff for me to catch up on. Guys, my backlog, oh my god, I'm never going to get done. I stopped working as much for a little while, and then, yeah, that situation changed very quickly. I picked up a second job, and now I'm working 50 hours a week, so hoping to kind of dial that back a little bit more soon. Maybe. Hopefully I can get into that, and we can get more videos done. So, until then, hang tight. I'm working on it. I promise. We are going to get more videos. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you again later. Bye, guys.